Hey everybody, just a quick video here while it's on the top of my mind about culture. Culture being our enemy versus being our friend. I made several videos about this subject, but never really with the, tried to avoid the actual definition of saying culture is your enemy or culture is not your friend. That's a Terence McKenna quote, and it was always one of my favorite topics that McKenna talked about, was culture. And it was because he understood something that many people seem to overlook, which is that just because you understand that you're part of culture doesn't mean that you can actually conquer it or change it. And it surely doesn't mean that you need to abandon being part of that culture. Something he said earlier when I was reading was I was listening to a lecture from him, and he was talking about how we learn in school through books and education. Then we go out into the world and try to read nature like a book. We try to read it just like we do with our studies in mathematics, just like we do with our studies of history. We try to understand the universe in realms of education, what we can actually learn and prove, and through science. And this is where we get confused, because some of these things are just felt in our hearts. Sometimes we just feel something is true, and there's no way to express it. And this is where faith comes in, and this is how religion came to be. The understanding that there is something deeper that we feel, if we're willing to acknowledge it. But when you say that, you are quickly ridiculed. So you either attach to a belief system where others can reinforce your belief, or you become an individual who says, yes, I believe in something greater. No, I have nothing to prove that, but I just know it's true in my heart. It's easy to ridicule that, for people to say, that's ridiculous, you're fooling yourself. Now, this is the old conflict. This is where faith comes in. And this is where faith is misunderstood as well. Trying to read nature like a book is a mistake. There are certain things that they're inherent within us that we can argue about all day but can't prove or disprove. And it comes to this other term that I wanted to relay, which was the high and low definition awarenesses. There are high and low def things that we know in life, and our knowledge on certain subjects can be high or low def. Now, for high and low def music, for example, an MP3 is a low definition sound. You lose up to 90% of the original music in an MP3, but you don't notice because your mind fills in the blanks. There's terms for this, but certain parts of the music can be left out, because the mind will fill in the blanks subconsciously and you won't even realize you're doing it. The same thing happens with television. And with low-def TV, you can't pick out quite as good of details, but you get an all-around picture, an idea of what's going on. The higher the definition is, the more details we can pick out, and then you start to see what you were actually missing. But the point is this, comparing this metaphorically to the things that we learn in our lives. Sometimes we have a very low definition understanding of something, because we only know just the basics, and we can't quite define it. Some things cannot be honed down to a high definition, and this is religion, or belief in a God is one of those things. Belief in any supernatural, higher power, all those types of things, those are all low definition, but they can be very high def in the heart of the person. But low def by society's standards of academic proving on paper that these things exist. So we're ultimately left to our own design, I guess, to take a little bit of culture and understand that culture is what brought us to where we are right now. So just saying culture is our enemy is saying that that being conscious and aware is our enemy. Or I should say, let me say, when you want to think about something in your life and you want to process something, you may do it through words or symbols, but you're using your pre-existing cultural background to do this. When you want to process an idea, you might use math, you might use language, but you use the words that our culture has formed. Language is not our enemy. Language is what we use to describe our feelings and express ourselves. And this is why so many more words keep coming up, because there are new definitions for new things, and we should be amazed at what we have. I mean, language is absolutely amazing. But language, among communicating with other people, is one thing, but it allows us to think in our own minds and process and write down ideas and remember them. You can write down a symbol and remember what you were thinking at that time, but there's only so many symbols. When you're talking about language, we can write pages and pages of our experiences and go back and refer to this. But there are certain high def realities that we have, like things that we understand in science that are very, very solid, But even those are broken down sometimes when we say, oh, well, this defies the laws of physics. What do you mean it defies the laws of physics? Several things discovered have defied the laws of physics. But do we abandon physics? No, because we're too attached to it. We're too attached to our way of thinking. Physics is still a very important part of our lives. So we're learning how to adapt and adjust and kind of change our way of thinking to form a more of a high-def approach to things. But at the same time, it gives us kind of a lower definition because we thought we had the high-def view of the universe, and then we start to realize we really don't know much. We had an equation that said a galaxy couldn't be more than 1.2 billion light years across. But we found one that was 4.5. You say, well, it defies the laws that we know of. Oh well, we don't know why. This means that it put our awareness into a lower definition. And anyway, that's just a couple things I was thinking about and I thought I'd share. So my point, I guess, would be to take the high definition awarenesses that we do have and really question them and see if we're quite sure about what we have. And the things that we're absolutely sure about are the ones that we should question the most often, but not to the point where we're questioning the shape of the earth or whether, matter exists or not. We need to use things that can actually help us. Things that humans can learn and grow from. And growth is really the end game. So take care.